All right, everyone, welcome. Glad we get to share today this nice True Health Tuesday afternoon for coming in and sitting down and spending a little bit of time speaking about the Fortified Heart. So this talk is actually one that I would say a lot of people should be interested in. Technically, not a full room here. We could have some standing room, but everybody's picking up their ability of actually trying to get focused on hopefully their heart health, get their bodies at least organized in a way, and starting to understand how to use the natural maintenance methods. And that's one of the big things that I know I was hearing as we were starting, is getting us to a system to where we can actually keep our hearts healthy for as long as you would like them to be healthy and not have to have any sort of issues come up and sort of take things away from you. Years, function, things of that nature, that's one of the big pieces about keeping that heart extremely healthy and operational, is that you don't want anything to keep you from enjoying life as much as you'd like to. One of the beautiful things to think about here is that we're speaking on an actual muscle structure that from the time of you being just about 4.5 weeks begins its process in the actual womb and doesn't stop until the day you decide to stop. So it's unique that we have this thing with us for as long as possible compared to a lot of our other body organs. You had this before you even really had a brain, and that's one of the interesting things we like to say, that there's something to the fact that the heart is there first. And it's definitely a little more sacred, something to be protected. But it's, again, one of those things that we've lost a lot in our sort of connection to natural healing methods of keeping ourselves healthy, free of doctoring and the Western medicine influence as much as possible. And it's not to say that I don't actually respect and love the fact that Western medicine is great for emergency conditions when you're having a problem, but the idea is the constant, ever-present nature of maintenance in the Western system seems to cause some problems. So we'll get into that in a little bit. As we kind of do tonight's class and as we're talking, one of the things, if you're going to be here with us on these Tuesdays, or if you caught us at Thoughtful Thursdays over at Raw Revelations, it's one of those very wonderful things where we always like to start off with conscious breathing. And understand that this process of actually opening up, breathing heavily and deeply, consciously with your full activity, is definitely one that actually is very heart healthy. A lot of people, even though an oxygen saturation meter might say that your blood system is actually doing quite well and your heart's still pumping effectively, when we actually deepen our breath, open up the actual areas and channel, keep the blood oxygenation happening, a lot of detoxification occurs through the lungs. But you have to use them in order for that process to be working. So the way we do this is a very simple exercise. It's called a 1-minute meditation. We go through the operation of actually breathing very deeply in for about 7 seconds, holding at those last 2 to 3 seconds, and getting that full lung cavity, and then we exhale for about 8 seconds. We breathe everything out all the way to the point to where we really can't breathe out anymore, and we kind of feel this little stop pinch where we don't have any lung left, and then we breathe in another 7 seconds, exhale another 8, and then there's 30 seconds of space, quiet, and the cooler fan. So we'll just kind of work with that. That'll be the nice blissful hum of electronics that are always going to be available for us. So as we do this, just understand we're really focused on the fact of even putting the hand right at the bottom of the actual sternum here, right below and feeling that actual expansion when we go to breathe out. You want to really actually have your stomach push out while you are breathing in. That means you get the most volume. If you've got a tight stomach and trying to impress everybody by keeping everything really solid here, you're not allowing for the full amount of air to come into the body. So we'll just start with this 1-minute meditation, and then we'll go with the rest of this evening. So 7 seconds of breath in. Holding those upper few seconds, and then 8 seconds of breath out. Nice, slow, all the way down to that feeling you get right there. And then 7 seconds of breath in. Holding. And 8 seconds of breath out. Wonderful. All right. everything just feels better after that regardless. So you don't get to close your eyes when you're on the road, but one of the best places to practice this is the ability of actually getting in your car right after you hopefully back out of your parking space and make sure no one's behind you. I'm not saying you start immediately, but even just breathing in your car on a focused method is a great way to give yourself a nice little exercise kind of boost of getting lung health going on. We're not focused so much on the lungs today with our heart health talk, but they are intrinsically together. So understand that there's something to how you breathe as to how your heart has to work. And stressed heart, low oxygenation, that's one of these things that we see a lot of happening here. So why are we having all of these heart problems? That's the unique thing about this. I find that it's, again, one of those sort of concerns that we didn't see in our society very often, even close to 100, or maybe even 70 years ago. People would have issues in their hearts, and it was common for it to be a part of the case. But the problems that we always found is that we had a solution for them that didn't require a lot of the outside influences, let's just call it that. But it's unique because what I want to break down today is how we get ourselves into trouble. And then we can kind of maybe see some of the steps on how to pull ourselves out. And once we kind of get ourselves to a place where we're feeling happy and healthy, then we'll know how to keep ourselves in that state for as long as possible. So the biggest key to understanding how to keep a heart healthy and when it starts to fail is your inflammation level. So this is the quintessential item. And the one thing I want everybody to come away with in their better understanding for how to keep their hearts healthy today is if you aren't currently getting this checked and you're working with somebody regarding your heart health, find somebody who will test what's called your C-reactive protein level. C-reactive protein is the check of the blood to see if you are in chronic inflammatory state. So if you have a high C-reactive protein in the body, then your body is constantly inflamed. If your cells, blood, muscles, nerves, and eventually your heart are always inflamed, one of the issues we see is atherosclerosis as a response and a lot of scar tissue developing in the heart muscles themselves. This is unique because everybody here, as far as I can tell, there's no artificial heart recipients anywhere in the room. Right? Everybody's pumping on their own. So the longer this is going, the idea is if you keep yourself in this inflammation state, it's not so much even the heart cells themselves that get weak, it's actually the interstitial spacing and the actual connection of the cells that starts to become a major problem when it comes to inflammation. So it's the in-between places that actually become more detrimental and more issues when we're constantly inflamed. The heart cells, the cardiac cells, actually regenerate themselves on the order of about 3 to 5 years, depending on the size of your heart. But it is one of those to where we are constantly regenerating the cells, but the scar tissue that's in between them, a lot of times that's where we get into major issues. Yes?
I have a daughter who's 9 years old with high levels of C-reactive.
Okay.
And how long does the scar tissue develop?
I mean, if you're very inflamed, it's happening every second. It's one of those where there's definitively a need then if you have somebody who's that young and trying to battle back their C-reactive protein to understand where we're going to talk about the ability to start to heal, regenerate, because you are given the chance for those cells to become fresh, new, pliable, and functional, so that way we don't see somebody being on a need for a transplant list of any sort anytime soon. So if that's a known issue, we need to find the source of the inflammation, and that's one of the big pieces here is understand the heart a lot of times is just responding to extra issues in the blood. And it's the blood that's a lot of times carrying the allergenic compounds, the different sort of toxins, the irritants into the heart, and the heart's trying to process, move them through, and get them to be excreted out.
I thank you so much for your time, because do you know how many $40 is
Yeah.
Provide me more information just now.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Oh my goodness. I'm sorry, I can't say the whole time. I have a 14-year-old migraine headaches, and I have a 9-year-old who's on the spectrum. And so I've got a 14-year-old watching a 9-year-old, and I have to take out. But I'm glad that I.
Well, do I still have cards here?
Yes. Yeah,
okay. Make sure you call me and send an email over, and we can do a full eval on the entire family. and that would be great to just get you into a better place of understanding. So inflammation is key here, and we understand that this, is a compound that our bodies actually produce. And I have a talk that's actually focused on inflammation being both powerfully protective, and it's something we need. If you smash your thumb or break an ankle or do something bad to your body, you need to be able to inflame. The problem is the fact that it's there every day, all day long, never being dissipated and never being maintained or balanced. So with inflammation levels on the rise and major issues developing in the body, the unique thing is that we also understand that our heart is a stress response system, and it is actually registering a lot of hormone content inside the blood system for it to decide, based on the thyroid's function, whether or not it can actually keep itself in good maintenance. So it's unique here as well too, is that now we're kind of understanding, one of my keys for 2015 is that the interconnectedness of our bodies is something we have to take into account, because so many times what we find is people who literally just focus on, say, a damaged heart, when they never stop to actually think about what's happening inside the thyroid, what's happening inside the liver, and how do we understand healing in a holistic manner. So the unique thing about stress and anxiety is that a lot of people, whether it's perceived or real, it doesn't really matter to our body. And that's the unique piece about this, is that a lot of times we are under constant everyday stress, from anything from deadlines at work to financial issues at home to different family members, let's just call them, that we don't agree with too much. Upcoming politics, we have elections in next year. Anything that's actually an interesting issue for the body. Your body produces chemicals every single second that actually tells it good state, bad state. And the unique thing is that actually has a huge piece to affect on how quickly and how hard the heart muscles actually have to operate. This is where our 1 minute meditation for a lot of people is the first time today, maybe this last month or a week, since you've actually felt a moment's rest. And that's the unique thing we don't do for ourselves very well, especially in this society, for being able to actually maintain good heart health. So stress and anxiety is something that I mention it here because it's the one truthful piece that a lot of people can begin to learn how to manage for themselves without anything else added to their diet, to their supplement regimen, to anything about the way their body goes. And I've literally been using this with both of my small children, 3 and 4. We have this phrase that when anything goes wrong, it's okay. As soon as you say that, literally everything inside your brain system changes. It's unique because maybe it's not, and you've got to have a little bit of faith and be able to walk through major problems and circumstances, but your perception and your constant exposure to stress and anxiety is the heart killer that a lot of people can turn off tomorrow. And that's a big piece in understanding how to keep ourselves extremely healthy. So those of us who get the chance to swing into a good yoga studio, can go on a nice run, have the ability to hop in their jet and vacation in islands way far off in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Whatever it is you do to relax, the idea is find ways to get this into your schedule even, and really understand that that's a big piece of this. Even if it is just a few moments, like breathing for 30 seconds, it's a tremendous effect on the way your body operates each individual day. So anxiety, again, is a little different than stress, because a lot of times this is that whole concept of perception, and the idea of what's really bothering you may not even really be bothering you, but you're constantly keeping it with you, and it's hard a lot of times for people to learn how to process that out and be able to get into a better state of mind. So again, state of mind, state of heart, they are interconnected. There's a big piece in this that we need to understand. I really want to make sure that we lead off with probably the thing I think I talk about more than anything when it comes to heart health, and that is the issue of cholesterol. There is no such thing as good or bad cholesterol. Just drop that. Let's not talk about it if we can help it, but I would love to make sure people fully understand it, so that way you can finally put it to bed and really go, oh, that's the difference. Okay, fine. Here's the way this all broke down, and this is where it all went wrong. There was a small paper written in 1951 that by 1953 became American Medical Association fact, and that was eggs caused heart attacks. And the idea was people who ate a lot of eggs tend to have heart attacks, so therefore eggs equals heart attacks. Well, the main compound in an egg is cholesterol. So they blamed this one paper where they said maybe there's a little bit of an issue here for the next 60 years worth of medical treatments. And the idea is every drug that we've designed to improve, quote unquote, heart health cholesterol levels goes on the premise that by reducing cholesterol, you keep yourself healthy. And this is a huge, huge problem because the heart cells are actually nothing but reinforced layer upon layer of cholesterol. That's what they are. There's not, and you can never get rid of that. They can't be replaced with any other compound. It's not like you could, decrease your fat intake so low that eventually you're on the 0 scale and you have no cholesterol left in you and you should be perfectly healthy. You'd actually be dead. That's the sad part about this whole concept here, is that we have a lot of people living their lifestyles, reducing oils, taking in oils that actually are not meant to be inside the human body, that are very pro-inflammatory and can go rancid very quickly, which creates more inflammation, which causes more body stress, which just keeps that whole cycle moving right along. And it's unique because what we actually understand now with the cholesterol issue is that the concept of 199 being heart healthy or life healthy and 200 being unhealthy on the cholesterol test for your bloodstream is ridiculous. The idea that that one number separates you from having health or heart risks and the other number not is completely improper, impossible, improbable. It's just one of those biggest things that I try so hard to get people to pull out of their thinking process in order to get to a better understanding about this. People who run marathons and have extremely low cholesterol drop dead of heart attacks all the time. People who you would see who'd have an average running count of 500 to 700 on that scale can sit perfectly happy on their couch, never lift anything heavier than a bag of chips, and live for 70, 80, 90 years. So tell me how that logic is actually going to be the foundation for understanding our heart health. And this is one of my biggest pieces because this was the thing that really was affecting my body whenever I started understanding health and nutrition in a different way, was that I'm a low cholesterol producer. I don't unlock the cholesterol out of either my diet or out of my cells very effectively. So when I got down below 100, everything started actually hurting so much, from my heart to my brain to just my joints and body muscles, to where I didn't know what to do. And I went down that whole road of there's some sort of medication to solve this. I must be imagining this issue. Nothing was actually making anything change my body type until literally I ejected myself out of the doctoring care system. Literally went on almost a solid sausage diet for about 2 years, got my cholesterol back up to about 220, 230, and was happier, healthier, and much more benefited by the fact of eating what most people call a very unhealthy diet. I learned how to eat better after I figured this all out, but that's what started my sort of personal case into getting this. Below 120, really below 160 on the actual testing system for cholesterol, there are issues already happening. I got down to about 75, 70 on my lowest, and that was where everything was very a big necessity for me to change a lot of my systems. So the cholesterol issue, sourcing is the biggest thing. You need to eat good quality, good oils, good fats that come from really healthy plants and animals that our bodies actually enjoy to take in, not processed material that just because the subsidy system out there says that everyone should eat canola, soy, or rapeseed, different styles of oils that have no business being inside foods. And one of the biggest reasons why Artisan's Palette is here to provide foods with other alternative option oils. It's funny how the healthy oils are now considered alternative and the unhealthy oils are conventional. So that shows you where our system has things just a little bit twisted around, because again, I would say conventional is go back 100 years and what do they carry with them? Duck fat, animal fat, butter, a little bit of different types of plant resins and things of that nature. But this is a unique understanding that we have to a lot of times take one step back from where we are today with our modern, crazy, cool technological advancements and go, well, if they could do it in a hut 100 years ago and have everybody be perfectly healthy, why don't we take an example and actually see what we can learn for ourselves? So the cholesterol issue is a big one. like I say, any questions or anything that come up about that or any clarifications, just let me know, because that's a big piece in understanding this. The other wonderful thing when it began was the use of antibiotics. There is truth to the concept that antibiotics are really the most quintessential longevity and life enhancement medical inventions of this last century. It's true. The problem is that they found it when they needed it inside war trenches, inside extremely isolated populations where they had no way of solving their health in any other system. We went to the system here where everybody just started carrying Z-Packs in their pocketbook, and the idea was, I feel a sniffle, use the antibiotic. And that's one of these big issues that we honestly don't understand, that I think is a big awakening as well for most people. There is a huge connection to how well your digestive system operates as to how toxic your blood is. And if you are using antibiotic on a routine basis in order to kill off bacteria, supplant that immune system to where it doesn't function the way it should, and you kill off the bacteria in that digestive system, all of those toxic compounds have to go somewhere. And if they're not being digested and properly excreted out of the body through the colon, then there is truthfully a major issue building up, and a time bomb starts ticking. So this is one of those big issues where, not to mention, there are probiotics that actually live inside your heart. There are probiotics that live inside your blood vessels. There's actually bacteria in every part of your body, and the more consistently you kill them with broad-spectrum antibiotic use, the more consistently you are actually taking away your body's natural defense system for keeping you in any good health whatsoever. With our more recent issues that we are dealing with today with antibiotic-resistant bacteriums that are very benign bacterium. They actually, Staphylococcus is on every single person in this room. No one can get rid of it. It's not going to ever drop away, but the problem is the immune systems of most people are dropping to such a degree of dysfunction that they can't keep themselves healthy and a MRSA infection develops. There's really no difference from anybody who has MRSA and anyone who doesn't walking around. It's the same bacteria, it's just they no longer have the immune system to protect themselves. So if the immune system's not functioning, it's not helping the heart. That means you're getting sick very routinely, and your need for all of this just increases. So there's a huge connection in this understanding here. Overcalcification, another huge mistake that we actually did as first world countries, because we started thinking that, for some reason, really, really good dairy production was making people in the first world be healthier for much longer. And that was the key solution. It probably was washing our hands. That was probably the thing that really did it compared to most of the rest of the world at the time. But we thought that we were good milk drinkers, and that's the way to keep a body good. And yet, really what it did was it actually allowed for another medical faux pas to occur, and that was the concept that calcium, calcium, calcium. Now, it's good for bones, it's good for teeth, it's good for everything else. The sad part is that the moment you have too much, it starts hardening your arteries. It starts taking away your valve function. It starts making you non-flexible. So you get more inflammation, more detriment to the body. Eventually, you get to the point to where, like a piece of chalk, the problem with excess calcium is that you will break and shatter so quickly and so rapidly that your body is not even really held together by calcium. That's like saying that this building's held up by the paint on the walls. Calcium's put on the outside of a silica matrix that actually is what keeps your bones healthy. Bonded by strontium and reinforced by magnesium and vitamin D. So it has nothing to do with even calcium per se. Calcium's there, yes. But if we boiled you down, you would be actually only about 18 or 13% calcium in whole, and you would be far more of the other minerals from the skeletal structure than what you are calcium. So it's unique because we started getting lots of bone breaks. We started having femur fractures in old age. We thought that there was a calcium deficiency. When more likely now, what we've discovered after about 30 years of good alternative health care outside of the allopathic system, it's magnesium deficiency that we're really dying from, not calcium deficiency. and it's the magnesium that actually bonds the calcium to the bone, and that's the main place that we see a lot of problems inside our bodies. But the big thing about heart health is the fact of you will lose the ability for that heart to operate the natural system that it should, be able to relay electrochemical signals. Now that's the big piece here, to understand that this is where arrhythmia comes from, this is where high blood pressure comes from, this is what actually allows for those issues to continue, is the lack of magnesium and not the concept that you need more calcium. Again, it's a big issue that everyone needs to turn around in their brain for a little bit, understand that there's a problem. It started off with good intentions, I'm sure, but we really need to learn how to undo that particular misnomer as well. Hormones from the outside sources is another big key towards the actual inability for the heart to know how to function and operate. One of the big issues we see is a lot of people go on either hormone replacement therapy at age, or they lose their thyroid function. They start taking exogenous thyroid hormone, and this creates the inability for the heart to discern as to whether or not for it to pump rapidly or for it to pump very slowly. Again, that thyroid is in control, and if different hormones are floating around the body, then what your body is used to understanding, a lot of these hormones get stuck and they actually turn things on and never allow for them to be turned off. So when it comes to, like we were talking about, anxiety and inflammation, we see a lot of this being registerable towards the idea of different hormones being put into our system. This can come anywhere from beef to dairy. It can come in from your eggs. It can actually be given to you by your doctor in a pill or a cream. It can literally just be in the tap water and in the air. So that's one of these big issues where we want to understand different hormone structures. Some of them we'll take because we know that there's a benefit, and there is some truth to that. But ultimately, you're always going to be putting something your body didn't produce inside your system and waiting to see what the long-term effects of that different hormone material is inside the body. Pharmaceutical drugs, again, we've kind of been talking a little bit about those, but a lot of drugs actually create more heart problems. And if you listen to 20 minutes of TV, you'll hear at least 2 to 3 of them, probably in our country. We're talking about the actual contraindications and how they affect the body. And more often than not, I mean, I'm saying probably with the 16, 80, 70% of different pharmaceutical drugs, because of the way they operate, cause issues inside the heart. So it's a huge piece in understanding on how to attempt to be healthy and to get yourself back to a condition to where you can start being focused on heart health. Is a lot of times we got to find natural solutions for the drugs that you might be currently taking, which you might need at this moment, but a lot of times became a problem because of other deficiencies that we've got to undo and get your body working on in a better way. The other big interesting piece in this is, like I mentioned, but the idea is no one here has an artificial heart. If you do, I'm glad, because it's letting you still go. So the idea is I want to keep and promote great long life. That's not the point. But we have a lot of people receiving stents. We have a lot of people receiving pacemakers. That a lot of times this interaction in the body is really a major contributor to getting your system back to full health and keeping it operational. One of the interesting issues that we have is a doctoring system that actually tells us you have this device, therefore you must be on this drug. Since they go hand in hand, they're made by the same people, they work well together. It's kind of like with my children now experiencing the joy of tiny Legos. The concept is they can buy any box Lego they want and try to mix them together. But it's funny how natural health care seems like those big Duplo blocks compared to the little micro Legos, and you can't mix those as easily. My youngest son is trying. He's putting the big ones in the center of all the little ones built up around him like little, and then he's trying to figure out a way to make it work. But it's funny because that's the way I feel a lot of times when it comes to allopathic versus much more natural, homeopathic and holistic style medicine systems. We're trying to find ways to make them work together, and most people just aren't spending the time to really figure that out. If you have an issue with your heart and you're on a pharmaceutical with the device, any kind of issue inside the body, all of the other things we talk about tonight are still important. It's not that you get a bypass and you just say, oh, I'm being regulated in this alternative way. Then the idea is still go back to fortifying your own health. huge piece of understanding. A lot of doctors don't say anything about this idea because you're only giving one option. And that's usually that system every day, hands down, with no other alternatives. So that's a lot about the ways things are falling apart, breaking apart, what we're going to do about it. So I love the fact of doing natural healing because I finally get to express to people a solution system. Not just the idea of you have this problem, cover it up, shove it in the corner, don't worry about it, it'll sit over there and fester, and we wait for it to become a bigger problem or other issues develop. But we really want to get back to the basics of how to start to build the body back to being strong enough to maintain itself. We were all pretty much here walked in by ourselves. We weren't given a little medical kit on the inside of the womb in order to hop out with so we could pop the pharmaceuticals or do any kind of interesting issues to ourselves. We were really designed to just walk in, be happy, live great lives. We want to go back to that. That's a big key here. So here are the strength of understanding and pieces to get back into your own control and your own healthcare. So I love promoting the concept of extreme self-care. I say extreme because what I talk about seems extreme. I don't know why. To me, it seems very natural and normal. But for a lot of people, it seems crazy. And I love that because it's really not that hard or that crazy. But to you, that's the way life might work right now. One of the biggest keys to fortifying every part of your body, but especially your heart, is getting this compound called vitamin D3 back up into your blood system. One of the struggles with our current system that we have now is copper tones killed vitamin D for the last 50 years or so, really, since our advertising went big. The other thing that really killed our ability to have vitamin D inside our systems was a shower. And that's a great invention, and I actually don't mind that at all. But the funny thing is that's what really, I think, did more of the damage than even copper tone. And that's because it actually takes the vitamin D3 oil that we naturally would produce from being out and having sun exposure, and it washes it down the drain. Because once you put soap on the skin, the oil that you just developed from being out in the sun for as much time as you could be gets washed away. Whereas before, most people would shower maybe once, twice a year. You'd jump into a cow pond. You would, freshen up by actually jumping into a water trough or something, and you just shake real quick and you'd be like, okay, now I feel so much better. And honestly, vitamin D counts were probably up in the hundreds every single person you met. Whereas today, we're keeping a blood level of about 25, which is critical in terms of keeping ourselves healthy. So with this, it's another one where I highly recommend, if you're seeing somebody, that you need to have them test what's called the 25OH vitamin D level for your blood, because that's the active version. The D3 we ingest like this is meant to really just get it to the point to where your liver, your spleen, and pancreas can go through the process of manipulating that D3 to create the 25OH factor. And I know a lot of people who take a lot of vitamin D products that aren't very absorbable and never cause their active form of vitamin D to increase in their body. So it's a big place to get checked and to understand that you can dose yourself to a point to where you can actually see your vitamin D3 level raise very rapidly, very quickly, and get it to where it's maintained at a better level, and that will keep you healthier longer. I always use it, and it's a great visual to keep with it. Vitamin D to me is like going into the barnyard with one little handful of hay and actually expecting all the animals to be happy. The concept is when this is in short supply, every part of your body is somewhat doing a sacrificial triage system for trying to keep you alive. And when we don't let it have good ample vitamin D, nothing in the system operates as well as it should. So it's very critical to have more than enough. And to be very, very comfortable and happy when your levels get above, especially my minimum set for vitamin D when you're trying to look at goal structures and getting yourselves healthy is 65 is the minimum I want to see in a blood test. 80 to 100 is much better. But the idea is we wanted to get ourselves into a level to where we see body health improve and change. So any questions, don't hesitate to interrupt. Because that's how we all learn. So, yes, in the back.
So you're saying the D3, but is there a overtoxin?
There is. They're at 250 plus nanograms per liter. You will actually start receiving what they call vitamin D toxicity. And what that really means is just like any other compound, it starts putting it in places where it's no longer functional. It's not that you drop dead of vitamin D overdose, or that it actually creates any true body dysfunction. It just isn't doing what it's supposed to do. But it's interesting, like I say, because most people are at 25. Toxicity begins at about 250. So 100-fold increase. Most people are here, and everyone talks about, please don't let me get too much. And that's one of these big places to try to understand how the system sort of operates, because the idea is, I'd like to find somebody who actually gets their blood level up to about 200 or so, and I go, hey, calm down. You're doing what you're doing really well, but we need to slow it back. And again, it's one of these things where fat-soluble vitamins are the least of our worries when we're taking all of the other stuff into our bodies that actually are causing us to truthfully have issues. But yes, there is actually a truthful too high amount. But again, we'll get there whenever everyone else is here. When we're talking about having too much vitamin D in these types of classes, I'm going to be a really happy person. But the idea is to keep yourself about 80 to 100. That's a really good level. We mentioned a little bit about the importance of magnesium. Magnesium, again, is truthfully one of the most critical minerals for our bodies to actually have on a routine basis. And magnesium is tough because a lot of people like to take either a powder or a pill to make things a little bit simpler or easier, but the intestines actually have a very low function for absorbing magnesium. And the interesting issue is that it just doesn't transfer through the intestinal walls as easily as what we think it should. It more regularly actually causes for a more laxative style effect and creates just better overall function of the colon, which is great, but you want it to be in there to be absorbed. So the unique thing that we've discovered about magnesium is that through the skin you actually get a much higher absorption rate, and you can start using it for what magnesium is really beneficial for, and that's like a topical analgesic. It actually works to deaden pain, to stop joint inflammation, really creates less tension towards the cervical vertebrae and decreases headaches. For a lot of people who have used this routinely, they find that their sleep improves, their energy starts to improve, your ability to actually detoxify your blood, and even just breathe more naturally. Because again, it's a lot of muscle connection that we have there.
I did what you said at the bottom of my feet here, and I'm doing it.
Oh, good.
So
Good. A little bit better, yeah, instead of the stomach.
There is this place that, works better for me.
Yeah. Bottoms of the feet are amazing. Again, here's another interesting little piece. Oh, sorry.
I was going to ask you, what other ingredients are in that?
This is actually a seaweed and aloe extract to be a little bit more calming to the skin, but there's always going to be the purified material that's just the oil and water.
Okay, so that's what. So my daughter's got a prescription for calcium and magnesium, and it's like being an autistic child. None of these don't want to take it.
Yes.
Horrific.
You just run after her and massage her like this. Yeah.
Right. Turn a corner and hold her down. And
the other amazing thing is, again, you can just throw Epsom or Dead Sea salt in the bath.
She was allergic to that. So I'm trying to figure out why she's allergic to it.
Could be the seaweed.
Well, she can go to the ocean.
Yeah.
But
which the ocean's full of magnesium too.
But she's got grass, weed, and tree pollen allergies, so I just don't know. So I was like,
which is usually just
I bought this spray yesterday. Yeah, the one that you gave me, just the one with just the oil.
Well, and the spray will create a skin reaction if you're highly deficient in magnesium.
Highly deficient.
Deficient.
Deficient or deficient?
Deficient.
So she needs it. I know she needs it.
Right. We just got to find a good way for her to absorb it. And the
bathtub
is usually.
I sprayed it on myself before I sprayed it on her.
Yeah.
And it was
and it's
on me.
At first, it's like very stinging. It's a lot of times it'll create reddening and rashing and things of that nature. Because and the other issue is that it's actually going to through the skin detox. And that's one of the other pieces is it'll pull material out that's actually trapped underneath of the dermis that's inside the lymph. And that's another piece in understanding how to where you're coming from for that particular issue.
Is there anything I can use to maybe
coconut oil if she
you can put add water to it to dilute it?
You can keep diluting, yeah. If you just take half the bottle out and put it into another container and dilute it again, it's already 50% diluted, so that would take it to 25%. And so you could just keep going down to a level where it's non-reactive to her skin and find out what's going to work best. But I'd say for a lot of people who are hyper-reactive to even just the oil, the idea is to really try to get the bathtub working for you and put flake salts into the bathtub. So that's a big piece in that. When it comes to the heart, again, magnesium is so critical because of the fact it is just a strong potentiator muscle that as it's using the electrical signals to keep you in good solid rhythm, the arrhythmias that occur is when there's not enough magnesium to actually keep all the cells functioning in that nice patterned rhythm that they have to maintain in order to keep your heart healthy. So it's interesting that we actually go through this whole process. But if you're experiencing a heart attack, they actually will inject you with anywhere between 20 to 50 cc's of magnesium chloride in order to calm your heart. So this is the standard of care for actually creating better heart function in people who are not functioning properly. So be using it daily, get it on the topical, let it absorb in, and let it do its job. That's the beauty of a lot of this very common sense, very lackadaisical, easy to understand natural healing system. So magnesium.
Once magnesium chloride is the one that's not good.
There's just a lot of companies out there who've designed and developed different types of, whether it's magnesium glycinate or citrate or magnesium carbonate or again, all of those. One of the only actual powder forms I would say that's beneficial is just a pure magnesium oxide. But the problem is that whenever we take that internally, that's the same thing that makes like Pop Rocks and like carbonated water ultra fizzy. So when you take, it's hard to actually get that down. But it is unique because we just are trying to find whatever, and even just having a good crystal salt that you enjoy, like we see here at Artisan's Palette, crystal salts have a decent amount of magnesium in them versus the Morton's rock salt, which is more sodium rich. And that's another one of those interesting issues about the idea that salt gives you hypertension. It's sodium rich rock salt that's actually not digested by the body very effectively that creates a lot of hypertensive conditions, whereas magnesium rich salts, which are most of your sea salts, actually calm the body and create good overall blood flow. So there's wonderful ways of trying to find good sources for magnesium. Even just a really good standard raw cacao powder, one of the best food forms and really easy for kids is the idea of giving them nutritional chocolates that actually have a great fortified bit of magnesium inside this as a food. So there are wonderful ways of keeping on, of adding extra magnesium in the diet in many different systems. And there is really still, with 96 to 98% of the population being deficient, the more the merrier. It's not one of those where we just rely on one system to be our only source of magnesium. We need all of that working for us. Our food, our water, our salt, our baths, our topical supplements, things like that. All working together. So silica is another really interesting compound. I know I mentioned it about the bone health, but it is silica that actually keeps everything inside the heart with the valves, the arteries, very flexible. Anything that moves inside the body has a basis in silica. And silica is a very tough mineral to actually get out of food, and that's why we're in such an issue right now, where we used to have much more high-end sort of herbs and grasses that we would actually eat routinely, horsetail and things of that nature to get silica back in the body. Now we're sort of just not even really mentioning that it's necessary at all. For good human health. And so silica is a very critical one, and if I have to give anybody a reason here, the more silica you have, the more beautiful your hair is. If you're not doing the hair thing anymore, it's good for everything else. But the idea is, start using these compounds because, a lot of times it takes almost our vanity to kind of kick into hyperdrive for us to do good things for ourselves. And then we really want to see better changes occurring for our bodies with compounds like this. So we want to find good reasons for actually getting this into our system and using this on a daily basis. But silica is actually a very easy one if you're taking in compounds like sunflower lecithin or maca, baobab, there's some silica in there, but they also make really highly isolated water enhancement products that put silica in the water that you're drinking on a routine basis. And that becomes a really easy way. Everybody should be drinking water. Just add it to the water, have that start to be a nice absorbable system for your body. But again, silica is all the structures. So there isn't anything that's flexible, that isn't flexible, that doesn't require silica in the process. Choline's another really interesting one. And it's unique because this compound is almost just now, as a Superfood and as a natural supplement, just a baby on the market, because we didn't really understand too much of it till about 4 years ago or so. But choline is this interesting compound that we get from everything from ghee or butter oil to sunflower lecithin for a plant-based product that actually allows us to absorb that in. Choline is this interesting one again when I talked about the interstitial space for the heart, the places where the muscles actually connect to each other. It's essential for the nerve fibers to actually put the proper pattern for the way for your heart to beat to actually operate as effectively as it can. So people who are under high anxiety, lots of stress all the time, always working on adrenaline, drinking tons of coffee, constantly keeping themselves awake and not being able to go to sleep very effectively, they're going to be deficient in a compound called choline. Now, secondary benefits of this is amazing memory and overall better brain health and nervous health. But the idea for the heart is to get it to where you actually are keeping a good rhythmic pattern and letting the nerve fibers operate as best they possibly can. So very essential nutrient. And one of the big issues that I find whenever I do any of the pregnancy lectures is that this is one of those few compounds that is missing in the diet of most modern mothers today, that's causing a lot of issues from brain to heart to nervous central compound problems. And so choline's a definitive piece that we need to get back into the body in order for it to do the functions of keeping our nervous health and heart health back into full operation. Again, we talked about cholesterol, the issues with it and where it got mixed up. But the concept I want everyone to leave here is that cholesterol is necessary for good life. It's just the selection of where you're getting your fats from as to how it's going to either create more inflammation or it's going to take away inflammation. So I'm sure everybody here has at least heard of the omega oils or omega-3 and 6 and 9 and understand that they are pretty critical towards keeping our bodies with good function. But really focus on omega-3 and 9. The omega-6 is a lot of times pro-inflammatory. So if you're a person who's dealing with high C-reactive protein, omega-6 needs to be cut to as minimal as possible and hopefully completely eradicated out of the diet. A lot of plant oils, things like hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds, things like that are high omega-6, and they're going to keep promoting inflammation. So that's one of the big issues that we a lot of times have when it comes to seed selection. I know we made and we sampled the wonderful chia pudding here today. Chia's got a really good omega-3 complex with very minimalized omega-6. So very, very beneficial to that. But there's also other places and sources like coconut oil, butter oil, avocado oil, things like that to work into your cooking standards toward where you can actually be getting really good cholesterol sources on a routine basis. We really want to see that and understand all cholesterol is good. It's just how you use it. That's the big piece. That with our ultra-specific diagnostic techniques of removing certain compounds and saying very low density cholesterol is not a good system, and very high density or HDL is the good cholesterol. What they're talking about is a lot of times that our cholesterol system in our blood goes from a size range, really, really small, to very, very large. We need the large ones to actually plug up big holes whenever our cells are having issues, and we need little ones to fill in the spaces that the big ones aren't when they go to plug something up. That's how they all work together. The more inflammation in the body, the more trauma to the body, the more you're going to produce cholesterol. And that's because your body is trying to heal. So we're looking at our health in a very cellular way, very microscopically at this moment, but it is one of those to understand that that's where good, bad really doesn't matter. Let your body be in control. Let it actually create the healing that you're looking for and occurring. But healthy cholesterol, eating healthy cholesterol makes it to where, and this is one of the big issues with the statin system, is that you'll take a drug that drops the cholesterol level in your bloodstream, supposedly, and what happens is your body will unlock the cholesterol that's around every single cell of your body. So you have 50 trillion cells, and you've got a double layer of cholesterol around every single one of them. So you have limitless cholesterol inside your body. The more you need it and the more you suppress it, the more your body will unleash it. And the unique thing here is it'll take it from your brain, your heart, and your liver first. So that's where we see the big issue occurring for a lot of people. And we know that this is a major contributor to a lot of neurodegenerative diseases and a lot of heart degenerative diseases. Is once they're on a statin, then it's hard to pull away from it and understand how to balance your own natural cholesterol levels with things like really good high fiber and actually getting fiber counts back up to 50 to 60 grams a day. If there's really anything I want anybody counting when it comes to calories and fats and oils and all that stuff that a lot of people like to count your fiber, count your water. If you can count fiber and water and make sure that you're getting about 80 ounces of water and about 60 grams of fiber per day, more than likely your health's going to drastically improve because those two compounds have a big impact on our health. Average American gets about 15 grams of fiber a day. Most of it insoluble in the forms of really interesting flour processed and manufactured foods. Very little of it's actually a true whole fiber or insoluble fiber that promotes good health. The rest of the world, their average is about 50. So you can see the difference between Americans, rest of the world, lots of issues. Definitely a major concern here that we're trying to undo. We just stop now. Is everybody full? You guys ready? You good, or should we keep going?
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Tell us some items with high fiber.
Okay, so let's start with most delicious is a syrup called sunchoke. The Jerusalem artichoke makes a very delicious maple syrup style material. It's 21 grams of fiber per tablespoon. It's more than your average Metamucil dose that a lot of people use on a routine basis, and it is delicious. So eat up on that one. The other great things is things like rice bran solubles. This is actually soluble fiber from the outside edge of the rice grain or the actual skin of the rice hull. Very, very high nutrient that comes in and actually does a tremendous job of giving us everything from glutathione to alpha-lipoic acid, CoQ10, some of these other really amazing heart-healthy pieces towards getting our bodies into better health and better function. But this is soluble fiber, and it's one of those to where 2 to 3 tablespoons of this is giving you about 34 grams of fiber per day. So good routine. Add this in.
Is Metamucil, for example, a processed food?
Yes. And that's one of those where there's a lot more in the Metamucil. It's really just having issues that I would say, and it's tough for people when they focus on that one because there's a lot of preservative compounds and other things that are being put into it versus just a much more natural thing. But compounds like the moringa tree, amazing insoluble fiber that doesn't break down. We have the chia pudding. Chia, the outside hull, the crunchy part of the chia, great insoluble fiber. Things that your body can't break down are something very critical for us to get in there. We want probably to do about double insoluble fiber at first versus soluble fiber because it's the insoluble that really cleans out the colon, gets rid of a lot of leaky gut system issues, IBS condition, and eventually, like I say, you probably go back to 1-in-1 with the idea of soluble to insoluble. Yes?
The Jerusalem artichoke, what was the name of this syrup?
It's sunchoke, or you'll see it called sunroot sometimes. The other one that's really nice and good for people who are on the diabetic spectrum and looking for something like that is called yakan. And so it's a very wonderful South American version, and it does have a good high fiber material to it and no sugar as well too. So it's a little bit beneficial on that side.
What's the difference between magnesium oil and magnesium gel?
Gel has seaweed and aloe in it. The oil is just water.
The probiotics go on with that whole, detoxing and stuff like that. What is a good probiotic? I know there's so many on the market.
A good question. Honestly, we could do a class on literally these crazy.
I know that's so important.
So important, yes. Probiotics. What's the best way of saying this? For 30 days, buy as expensive of a probiotic as you possibly can. And I say that because there is actually money talking when it comes to the way the probiotics are produced. And the ones that are usually ultra expensive have a lot of extra science put into them in order to make them really bioavailable to humans. So Dr. Ohhira's is one of the better brands out there. Dr. Ohhira. That company does a really good 30-day supply of probiotic for $40, I believe it is. And so for 1 month, take as most expensive as you possibly can of a probiotic. After that first month, though, the idea is you don't need to be taking probiotic every single day. A lot of people are overdosing on probiotic, thinking that's going to solve their problems, and they're spending way too much money when it's actually not functioning inside their body. It's going very quickly down the drain. And the reason being is your immune system checks your food and what you're eating to see if there's bacteria in it. So if you're always eating and always putting bacteria in the body, a lot of times your system just flushes it, and it just doesn't keep it actually together. The only time I would say that this recommendation is a little bit different is if you're finding yourself eating certain types of food and your body's reacting very negatively to it, and you kind of like it, so you'd like to keep it in your diet, you got to find the right probiotic to help your body break that down. So if you like your good solid Italian lasagna and you just want to stick with it, then you've got to find the right enzymes and probiotics to get in your body so you don't have an allergenic reaction to it. And that's to say, truthfully, most people, again, stay away from gluten, not because gluten's a bad thing, but because GMOs are horrible. And a lot of the wheat's gone. So it's one of those big pieces of understanding. But on the probiotic side, after that 30 days, work on things like Baobab, Lucuma, which are prebiotics. That what they do is they feed the natural probiotic inside your system very effectively, and you don't have to continuously be spending large amounts of money on probiotic. So that was a huge, probiotic loop, side turn, little off-ramp, gas station, little stop.
And what was the one after you said?
Lucuma or Baobab.
Okay.
Very, very good prebiotics. The other big key piece, and I think of actually trying to mend and heal, is blood detoxification. One of the biggest irritant issues inside the system is the fact that your body is holding on to a lot of exogenous compounds from everything from plastic to pesticides to herbicides, fungicides, larvicides, massive food production. Industrial made systems require a ton of preservatives and compounds in order to make the food safe. We're dying because of it. That's the problem. And if we were just going out to our own natural garden, picking our own fruits and vegetables and the stuff we could control for ourselves, we wouldn't need the tons and tons and tons of chemical compound being put onto our food and the genetic manipulation of that food to the point to where it's not even food anymore. So it's one of these interesting places where blood detoxing is a very long, drawn-out process. No one can get it done in a weekend, at least not anyone I've seen survive. You can try to continuously be reducing blood toxin compounds slowly over time, and that's a huge benefit to your body because everybody has different loading systems on different metals, different compounds that as you bring them down a little bit and get them more under control, the rest of your body starts to produce better health function. It actually will improve over the course of time. So it's good to go at this with a goal structure and a strategy, meaning you know that this month I'm going to do this detox and this month I'm going to do, and you just sort of start living a lifestyle where that's always in the back of your head and kind of your focus on blood detox. Great compounds to consider are things like MSM, wonderful for detoxification. Another great item that I would love for people to learn a little more about and promote, and try not to get too deep into it, but citrus modified pectin. And the pectins that come away from even just eating apples and pears and your own actual fruits and vegetables. Again, there's something to the fact of actually ripping open your orange or your different citrus style fruits and eating as much of the white as you can, because that's where pectin is found inside citrus. The whole apple, the whole pear is actually all pectin. It's all got pectin in there. But citrus modified pectin is unique because it actually is blank, meaning it's fully open and ready to absorb compounds, versus the stuff that's actually inside your fruits and vegetables isn't. So there's definitely some benefit from using our detoxify blend in order to start letting the body go out and do the detox. Yes.
Like if you're going to eat apples and pears and you're not sure how they've been sprayed or grown, is it safe to just wash them? No. You really have to yourself or
not anymore.
It really
Talk to your local farmers market people. That's what this store loves, is the idea of talk to somebody. Find out who's producing good stuff. It's worth it with your dollars in your pocket to give it to somebody who you actually like. And you know their name. Like you walk in, hey Larry, have some apples. Okay, great. Thanks so much. See you next week. That's such a better transaction than the idea of just walking into Albert's and just throwing the money on the counter, being like, well, whatever, and walking away. There is a big piece to that because it's tough with most of the compounds we have inside the food production system. Once they're systemic or in all of the plant tissues, then there's nothing you can do about it. Just the waxing on the outside of most of the apples and things like that they do nowadays is damaging enough to the internal the intestines because they put a coating on the outside of most of the apples so that way bugs and worms and things like that don't get in, and then you eat it and you think, oh, no problems, right? Well, you're warm enough to where that wax actually mobilizes and coats the inside of your intestines, so now nothing can get into your body, which major issues. Yes, yeah, and exactly. Yeah, so major issue there with a lot of the different fruits and vegetables. So I know blood detoxification is big for me. I like the idea of using bath salts and negative ion generating machines. Breathing in detoxification compounds is really amazing. Using things like salt lamps, ozone generators in your environment, definitely big help. But get the blood cleaner. And I can't do this class without the benefits of turmeric, honestly. Luckily, a superfood has made it on the national stage to where everybody at least has heard or talked about or said something about the benefits of turmeric. It's anti-inflammatory, it's antiviral, it works well for actually rebuilding our internal gut flora, it's fantastic for taking away achy joints and pain to keep you away from Advil and ibuprofen. It does a tremendous job for boosting the body system. So
I think the biggest challenge on that is really the dosing.
Correct. Oh yes, yes. The dosing is.
We've been working with her, and by the way, it's working.
Yay!
You know,
I love hearing that. It's only been like 4 or 5 days.
yeah.
You guys figured out?
No,
Okay, good. Yeah, so Phil and Sue there, you don't mind if I say what, Sue is experiencing some post knee replacement surgery pain from one of the connective ligaments, right, that was having an issue on the front. And so taking a couple, 1 teaspoon or 1 dose of the turmeric wasn't really doing anything. So we kind of were worried there'd be the necessity for pharmaceutical pain relievers.
Yeah, the doctor said, well, turmeric's fine, but let's go with Western medicine here. I want you to take 4 Aleve or Advil every night and 4 Advil every morning.
Yeah. So with just increasing and going to a functional system and understanding that the natural herbs actually work with your body in a way to where they'll, as you increase them, your body finally will activate the anti-inflammatory function and you'll see some pain.
I'll also say the magnesium.
The magnesium. Yeah. Very, very critical.
So is turmeric basically an alternative to aspirin, or does it do something else?
It does a lot of other different things. Curcumin, one of the active compounds in turmeric, works very similar as an analgesic to what the aspirin people believe they have inside their little white tablet. The big interesting issue here with turmeric is that it actually shuts off the what's called NSFK factor, which is a very big word for the idea of inflammation, and it makes it to where your body can't hyperinflame, swell, and it stops that whole process. So it really works to reverse that. And over time, with enough exposure to turmeric, you can undo inflammation damage, and that's one of the big benefits we see in using it routinely. Yes, go ahead.
So, what are you taking? What shape and form of turmeric?
Right. We buy
the big bottle there.
the bottle right here. It comes turmeric concentrated in an oil and a black pepper, crushed black pepper mixture in here, which it requires both of those for the turmeric really to work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you do what with it? You put it
Directly
on
underneath
your
the tongue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's absorption.
And she's using 2 droppers now,
Perfect.
but it took a while to figure out. You read the label and it's like, okay, I'm gonna do 10 drops. It's like the vitamin D, it's like a drop at a time. No, we do 10, 15 drops of vitamin D a day.
Correct. Wonderful. It's just good to know that you're feeling better.
So if you're kind of like plateauing after a while, then taking to your work, you could just like up your dosage.
Of course.
And continue to like kind of
See where your body has a reaction. Again, functional dosing and the actual use of natural medicine is one of these beautiful windows of like unexplored territory for a lot of people. Your body will be reactive to everything you put in it. The question is, good or bad reaction? The idea of too much magnesium inside a little glass of water creates an extreme laxative effect. Not so good if you're about ready to walk out the door. Sometimes it's actually what you need if you haven't had relief for 2 days. So the idea is you learn how to understand your body and what you're putting in has those interactions. So when it comes to turmeric, if you're using just like a daily maintenance concept and you're like, I'm feeling okay, then again, I'm one of those. Turmeric actually has no physical limitations in terms of the ability to counteract inside the body once you've had too much. That's one of the big benefits about turmeric. So keep going. If your body's still having inflammation issues, you're still experiencing migraines, any kind of major contributors to pain, then keep using turmeric. And sometimes maybe you got to go to more of a 3 times a day thing because your inflammation's coming up, going down, coming up, going down. So you've got to follow your body's pattern and see, if I walk a little bit too much, maybe an hour or so on my feet, inflammation rises, I start to have pain. The funny thing with turmeric and magnesium is that if you know that, at about 45 minutes, put the magnesium on, take a little bit of turmeric, and usually you'll walk right through and go, hey, no actual issues. It's there for you to support you through your entire process.
It's also up for MSM.
Oh, good. Yeah, I know we talked about that. MSM, massive anti-inflammatory. Really good.
She overdid it for a while. She had
yeah.
headaches.
Okay. So one of the interesting things as we've gone through, the way things have fallen apart, some of these great superfood items, solution systems to get accustomed to start using on a routine basis, is a little bit more of, for heart health, back to the concept of the holistic healing. So many people, I find, are really just in a position where their body is craving some form of exercise, some form of true movement that's actually heart healthy. There's a lot of people who've been a daily walker for 20 years of their life and still end up having heart issues. It's because they very rarely are ever getting to that point of actual exercise, meaning the heart revs up, all the systems activate when the heart's actually pumping at a much higher rate, and the heart calms back down. Then they get in that process of going up, coming back down, breathing differently, and actually how your body changes over those is very critical to keeping your heart extremely healthy. So it's one of those to where our bodies do a great job of prioritizing and creating adaptability to where if you never really overexcite your body system or the level of output from it, never gets up to the point to where your body is stressed and learns how to deal with the stress, then you're actually kind of misusing the body you have. It's meant to go through problems and be okay. That's the beauty of it. We don't want to stay in plastic bubbles. We want to get out there and sweat a little bit. We want to push ourselves every so often. And this is definitely one of those to where we can see a lot of big benefit from not just doing one style of exercise, but keeping it varietal. Again, it's one of those to where I think as parents, it's funny because you really a lot of times feel like you don't need to go to the gym because as long as you're running behind them, you're getting more than enough exercise. But the idea, though, is to really find, and I think for the holistic healing practice to come in and be involved for people, is put this on your calendar. Make it an actual priority. Notice how many hours or what's time you're dedicating to you being healthy. One of the things I like always asking people when I'm able to sit down with them personally is how serious are you about being healthy? If you're serious, well, then it's going to take time. If you think it's just one of those side item, run-of-the-mill things and it's just going to be, not a true focus, this is where we really want people to challenge themselves to be as healthy as possible. One of the big places that I think I come from is the idea of, yes, it's hard. I know that. But you got to go through it. You can't sit here and go, I just wish I was healthy and just stand there and wait for something to happen. The idea is you got to see some activity that gets you to that point to where you want to go. But the daily movement is critical. Some people are lucky to have jobs that actually kind of create physical exertion. A lot of us don't. And again, I love that whole Facebook meme that says leading cause of death, and it lists breathing, sitting, and eating. And I'm like, yeah, those things we have to do, but we can control how, why, when, and how our content goes to it. So it's interesting because the big takeaway is if it's not on your calendar, most of us, at least the calendar will remind us that we're not doing what we said we would do. And that can happen for a couple of weeks until we finally maybe guilt ourselves into being able to go out and do something for ourselves that are healthy. But in that same sort of regard, the concept is also for that heart to drop all of the the outside sources of anxiety, all the guilt, fear, worry, stress, everything that you create in your life that isn't necessary. Some of it's very real, and yes, you got to deal with that. But the idea is, if you're just worried about stuff, it's not helping. And your body doesn't really see the difference between a bear running at you and a pile of bills running at you. The idea is it really discerns them as exactly the same threat. So your body responds in very much the same way. So it's unique because we really need to understand that that's a huge piece of this. We really got it, and that's where it takes a little bit of time to develop strategies, to develop goal systems, to find places to actually heal, not just even though we're trying to work on the heart as a muscle, but work on the heart as what it actually represents and how it works inside the body. Again, there's something to be said about the concept of resting at least one day a week. There's something to be said about the fact that the rest of the world, on average, gets about 3 months off from their job per year to go and have a vacation or holiday. And they actually live a lifestyle to where that's okay. Whereas most of us know from sitting in this room, from maybe just being here at 4 o'clock, it's hard to drop the even for 5 minutes to say, oh no, I'm just not going to worry about work for this, for this little bit of time. Again, there's something truthfully different about Americans, and we love the fact we live here and we do what we do. We know that's a big part of us, but that whole concept is something where trust the Europeans. They've got relaxation down. They know what they're doing, and they know how to enjoy it. And that's a big piece in this that I think a lot of people, even for myself, I just started getting to the point where every 6 months I at least put something on the calendar that's going to take me away from what I'm doing for at least a week. And that way, hey, life just has to happen, and eventually I'm going to do that vacation. Eventually I'm going to sometimes my vacation turns into cleaning out the garage. But the idea is I'm not worried about work, and I can deal with piles of stuff so much easier than the imaginary stuff that essentially happens inside our work. It is interesting, though, because I do talk about this as a way of letting people understand that you can go at a health issue with the best doctor care, the best supplement care, the best exercise program, and never deal with yourself and actually have the same problem. And that's one of those where we spin our wheels a lot and we waste a lot of time and a lot of money when most people just need to drink good water. They just need to eat some better food, be a little more relaxed and happy, and it's amazing what will happen. Amazing what can happen about ourselves. I mentioned some interesting items that I know that Pia carries here that are a little different than what we have at just my other location. But I really want people to understand that there's actually systems out there above and beyond even what you learn here that you've got to get into being healthy in order for you to actually understand or see any part of them. On the surface, everybody, like I say, kind of knows about omega oil, or at least something about it. They maybe have heard of turmeric. But there's a lot more to the depth of understanding our bodies and natural healing, and that's where it's tough at first. But 15 years later with myself, it's one of those very interesting places to be, to go, yeah, there's a solution for just about everything we have a problem with as humans. And it's actually really simple. Something like actually just doing a very, heart healthy or blood pressure related style tea that creates a beautiful compound here from things like the lemongrass and the hibiscus. Hibiscus literally will drop your blood pressure systolics and diastolics down 20-30 points after just 1 cup. So people who are consistently taking blood pressure medication because that's the only way they think they can live, they are being duped into a concept that actually that's as simple as it is hibiscus tea. Other things need to go in there, but it's amazing how well you can manage your own blood pressure by just taking a few simple ingredients. Really good hawthorn berry here. Very wonderful piece in that. Hawthorn does a fantastic job for people who already have plaquing and buildup inside their arterial valves. Same thing like coconut oil. Coconut oil is the only actual system so far that we've been able to see that will liquefy plaque inside human arteries without doing the detrimental issues that we normally see of what we call plaque eruptions or developing an aneurysm condition. When the whole cholesterol concept, again, cholesterol heals, so understand that part. When you start to have a thinning of an arterial wall, your body shoves a bunch of cholesterol up against it to kind of spackle a huge hole they don't want, but bursting open and becoming an aneurysm. That's the way it's trying to save you. It's trying to help you. And it's unique because that plaquing, although it's trying to save you, can become the problem. Coconut oil contains two compounds, caprylic acid and lauric acid. And these acids actually go up against hardened cholesterol inside the arteries and starts to erode them to the point to where you can safely break down the plaque and actually go from even 80 to 90 to 100% blockages and actually have that be reduced down in a natural system. So there is a tremendous benefit to things like that. Another really interesting compound out there, lots of controversy on it, but CBD oils that come from hemp plants are very wonderful as anti-inflammatories. And they do a great job at boosting the body's natural ability, just like turmeric and things of that nature, to where you can look at these as being really good, heart-healthy additives as well. And then ginger, of course, massive anti-inflammatory, really great digestive aid, fantastic for cleaning out the actual intestines of bad bacteria, and things like ginseng, Euthro, energizers that actually aren't stimulants. It's one of the big pieces for people to understand. Rhodiola is another great compound for people to get energy without overstimulation and creating that caffeine reaction inside the body. So it's unique. We want people to understand that, yes, pharmaceuticals, the whole Western care system, they want really fast, immediate results, and the idea is who cares what it does to the rest of the system. I'm trying to get people to understand the benefits of not living that way anymore. Yes, it takes time. Yes, it takes education. Yes, it takes the process of actually doing it. You have to fill up the tub, and you have to pour the salt in the tub in order to get the benefit from it. I'm sorry, I don't know any other way of getting that done. But you can sit down and have a delicious chocolate and go, hey, magnesium. I think that's one of the more interesting things for a lot of people is for them to actually do what's called a functionality diet. It's a 2-week cleanse for people to actually think about when it's really simple and easy. But they go through and they literally just mark what they're eating and what that does. So when you say cheese pizza, I can list all the bad things it does. It does taste great, and that's one thing. Good Italian pizza, great, great crust, nice, good quality. There are some benefits to knowing your food, but it's unique when you start going down the list of everything you eat and how little of it sometimes is actually doing any benefit to your body, to where you'll start switching up salads and your sandwiches to contain different styles of things like pickles or different fermented vegetables and actually get sprouted material in there and then change the oil. Because once you start looking at your food functionally, you realize every time you open your mouth, you're deciding or telling your system one way or the other, pro-health, anti-health. And that's something we really want people to understand. So if you just even do that as a nice little take-home homework assignment, write down what you're eating, see if you can figure out what's good about it, try to find all the wiggle room you can to enjoy the things you love, or, like Artisan's Palate does here so well, upgrade your food and you'll upgrade your body. It's an amazing, amazing concept there. So there is a big piece that I would like for everyone to kind of leave with today. Real quick summary. You are the people who are making the decisions for how the next 100 years of people are going to live. The way you decide to live your life and the things you buy, the things you endorse, the things you tell other people about are the symptoms, the beginning symptoms of change in a system. If we are not happy with the way things are going, we have to start doing at least that. When we shop here, we're technically telling a large-scale, big-box, warehouse-style food producer and distribution center, we don't like that. We would prefer it to be better for us. Again, love the fact that there are a couple companies that produce most of the food for the United States and give us the ability to go to a grocery store and buy it. They are kind of getting it. So we're having an impact. It's maybe about 10 to 15%, but it is there. It is happening. Whereas 10 years ago, I don't think this store, anybody would even know why to walk in the door. And that's a big piece, a big testament.
I would expect it psychedelic.
Oh, yeah, we have a little bit of that in the chalk and the chalkboard. There's a little bit of psychedelic left. The whole hippie mentality has just gone way overboard. But it's a big piece for everyone here to understand your role in this process. That's the big piece of it. If you make a personal choice and you solidify that you want things to be different, then that's where we see change occur inside a person. Again, I promote everybody here. You are capable of actually doing this. It may seem scary at first. It may seem really hard. It may seem really weird or odd. That's why I love doing what I do, working with people as a health coach, talking through this whole process, developing that system, the confidence. I can't send you into, the broad spectrum world and expect you to understand all of it today. That's why each month we learn about 5 things. It's really like we're going as slow as we kind of can push through that. Yes, go ahead.
What is your background? Are you Ayurvedic or what?
Personally, yes, but I understand the benefit in Chinese herbs, and I see the benefits. My truthful spot is what we call integrative medicine. So the idea is we integrate everything from natural healing, homeopathic medicine, essential oils, herbs, broad spectrum, good macronutrition, and when it's necessary, Western medicine. But the idea is it's all coming together for benefiting the human health concept. The only thing that I would say that's very different is that I am a drugless practitioner. So I will not actually give anybody, or I don't really recommend anybody to use a drug, any kind of drug compound.
Are you certified?
So I'm a certified health coach. So I went to what's called the Institute of Integrated Nutrition out of New York. So they gave me the ability of actually going through, and what we do in working with people is we talk the steps through from going from where you are today to what your goal is in your health. So if that's changing your diet or changing your exercise level or whatever that might mean for you, the idea is to be active in it, to be working on it. Very, very critical and important there.
So as an endorsement for Joseph, I've been working with him, around him, listening to him for almost 2 years.
2 years now, I know.
Okay, and I've seen so many people come in, one visit, and they're hooked. They're back, and they see improvements in their health. Myself, you heard about her. I deal with diabetes. I'm down to almost 1 bed.
Yeah. Huge thing. Yeah, it's been amazing, and it has been amazing, and it's been interesting how you say you're hooked. I like that. I like it because the idea is I want people to get addicted to being healthy, and that's the biggest piece in that. Is that it's tough. It's tough to want this more than anything else. Like I say, it's a huge benefit though that I would love to let everybody understand out there. We'll talk a little bit once we're finished up here at the class if you have any personal questions. But the idea is to just come in and sit down and spend some time. It takes time. I don't know any way of doing it any different. I do want everybody to, like I say, my key this year, 2015, is for everyone to understand, and we talked a little bit about it here, but the interconnectedness of your body is amazing. And the fact that you need to understand every piece talks to every other piece, and most people should never work on somebody as if they're an automobile, and the idea that if you change the alternator, it doesn't matter the rest of the vehicle, the rest of the operation, it's going to have a little bit of a difference. So whether you're taking a pharmaceutical, going and getting surgery, or taking alternative, natural sort of healing systems, it all has an effect. The idea is, where are you going with this? But knowing your interconnectedness, making these personal choices, these changes, having good friends and people who offer amazing products is the way to understand how to do this process for yourself. So if there are any questions, like I say, there's still potential for you to be famous and be recorded and get put out there on the broad spectrum. But if you want personal questions as well too, we'll spend some time with that before we finish up here today. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed. Stay healthy.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was gonna say that, I started my water aerobics,
Uh-huh.
and I can definitely tell that it's definitely working, because I've only gone this time.
Yeah.
2 days later, and my calves, everything is just like kind of, so I mean,
Moving.
it seems like when you're in the water that's warm, which if people are so heated, and it's going to or whatever,
Yep.
salt water.
Salt treated, yeah.
And it seems so soothing and relaxing and everything like that, but it really is working.
Yeah.
It worked it out, so then you gotta deal with, just your body getting used to it. But it's something that almost everybody can do in the water.
Of course.
It's of course, it's relaxing, at least this time of year. You have that access.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Good to get things going.
It's like an article in one of the local health papers, talking about the being great, talking about how it works everywhere, the inflammation on the skin. I'm just amazed this year. I haven't sunburned this year.
At all? You
I
don't?
have not sunburned.
You don't whenever you've got good levels.
I got my vitamin D levels up. I'm just brown. Just brown to brown.
That's the way to go.
I just don't
Yeah.
I'm almost,
Well, the good thing is.
when I first started with keto, I was just so sick. I was like, I'm decided to
Well,
do
at least
it.
it's 5
And I'm not good enough to do this. As soon as I
hours.
find out, it's like, where did I put that? And that was the last thing I had.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
Yeah.
that is awesome.
I know.
How old are you?
Okay.
But that's why I was asking about, I have 2 kids, and I my cheek is,
That's why she has that.
and because I'm my family went from her, I'm slowly trying to get her teasing her. She's her sisters are really good. Japanese right, the works from rice, green tea, and I said, do you know she had it for how many years? And I love my teas. I said, do you know that you have such an expensive tea? This is a good tea.
Yeah.
And then I was eating the whole thing, And she says, yeah, let's do it. I said, yeah, we should do that. I started doing it yesterday.
Oh,
When
good.
I make tea.
So how
And then
long?
I said, oh, you give me too much brown rice. And I said, here, you can have some.
I've had a lot of
Too much
issues.
See, for me, that's not, it doesn't bother me. So she has brown and she has a stint. Because I love
I wasn't on insulin. Part of it wasn't that dedicated to taking that.
That's for the cholesterol.
Yes.
But
So,
taking this stuff, because it does more than just
I told her about coconut oil.
part of changing the
But
diet.
like it was
Some stuff that,
why do you want to say you throw away all that fat? I said, you have
like I said,
olive oil called first, but it's true because
I
it's
take it,
blended
it
with
depends
canola.
on the meal I eat. I might take
So,
some.
unbeknownst to her, I poured some in the trash. I took about it from the back, so that I don't have to buy extra virgin olive oil. She bought the coconut section, and she bought the coconut and then the tea, but the thing with it is that she, just to go up the stairs, she showed me
It's a combination.
She has very nice
We did with her, and it helped my diet too.
her hormones are shot.
Processed sugar.
That she'll have.
Occasionally she still altered. I mean, she had first doses.
Yep, need some work.
But you know, this
The other question
occasionally,
I'm gonna ask you.
we did a 3 days.
You know how some people make a lot of
Sugar.
So I knew that.
Profit per
You
weight.
used to find those girls. And what was that?
The Association of American Douglas Practitioners. Practitioners.
Joseph, I would like to get to meet my father.
Yeah, I figured that was.
Yeah, yeah.